So if you did not get full points on your binder check, there will be a comment in Schoology and a date for when you can still submit it for full points. There's no reason that should be a bad grade. So like I frequently have students that are absent for sometimes really good reasons. You still have to take the same test as everyone else. So you still need to watch the video, take notes, practice the skills, and taking notes requires no like accuracy, right? It's just, can you follow the directions? That should be a nice grade. It should cushion everything else, but I don't know. Like I told you before break, that this was gonna be today, and still I had a lot that weren't done. I can't remember. So that is up to you if you want to resubmit that. We are testing tomorrow, so do the study guides, ask questions, email me your question if you have to, but if you don't ask before you test, then you'll probably still get it wrong. Make sure that you're doing your part and practicing it. I promise I taught it all to you, but we might have only done a few examples. You need to practice yourself. So this is what this time in class is for you to ask questions on those study guides. Also, friendly reminder, if you are interested in going on that trip that I'm posting to the UK, that informational meeting is on Monday through Zoom. And I sent a message out again to you and all your parents. So you have the link to register for the meeting. If you don't register for it, you won't get like any more information. So even if your parents can't attend the Zoom meeting, they can still receive the recording so long as they register. And I'll probably stop talking about this. Okay, so if that's of any interest to you, you should check your parents' Twitter messages. All right, but what questions do we have from any of the study guides? Abram, on the study guides? Oh, okay. Number 3 on the constructed response. This one? Okay, so this is really similar to what you had to do in the last unit, except for instead of a system of equations, because equations was the last unit, you're going to make a system of inequalities. So here's the situation. Suppose you buy flour and cornmeal in bulk to make flour tortillas and corn tortillas. Flour costs $1.50 per pound, cornmeal costs $2.50 per pound. You want to spend less than $25 on flour and cornmeal, but you need at least 6 pounds altogether. All right, so we are making a system. It says like some options, equations or inequalities. So this unit is inequalities. So hopefully you pick up on that and don't like make equations. But even if they were put together, then you need to use your critical thinking skills and look at the words that are surrounding your totals. So what are the two totals in this situation? Sorry, what was that? All right. And a system has at least 2, so there should be 2 totals. 6. So a system, you need to have 2, they need to be separate, and look at the words surrounding your totals. So you want to spend less than $25. Does that mean what I'm actually spending can be greater than 25? No. Can it be less than 25? Can it be exactly 25? Yes. Technically, no. It says you want to spend less than $25. So technically, it cannot be the 25 exactly. I know that seems weird because they use solid lines down here, but really, like, one of them should be dashed. Because if you want to spend less than 25, technically, you can't spend exactly. All right, now look at the words surrounding the 6. You need at least 6 pounds altogether. So can I buy more than 6 pounds? I need at least 6. Can I buy more? Can I buy exactly 6? So then I will have a little line underneath for that one. Now think of what contributes to these totals. Remember that systems should use the same variables. So try to figure out what's the unknown. What are we trying to solve for? What are the unknowns? What are we trying to figure out? We know the cost of each actually. So what is not known? What needs to be a variable? What does it say on our axes? Okay, so pounds of flour, since it's on the x-axis, what variable can be used for that? And this should be what variable then? Yeah. Okay, so if you're in doubt, look at the graph that they give you. So, and you do have to define the variable that you use. If you don't, you will lose points. So x, and don't just say flour, say pounds of flour. And y is pounds of coordinate. So when we're talking about the costs, like this is my total cost, I should probably have these dollar values incorporated on the other side. So what do I need to write over here? Say it loud. Okay, perfect. So if it's a total dollar amount, you should probably have your dollar amount in your expression as well. And it makes sense, like, if this is how much it costs per pound of flour, then yeah, I multiply it by my pound of flour. And same thing over here. All right, now what does the other expression have to be? The one that goes with the at least 6 pounds. Good. And it's as simple as that. One of them is usually that simple. And that makes sense. If I need 6 pounds altogether, I really just need to count how many pounds of each I have and make sure it's at least 6. Make sense? Okay. So that right there, I can't remember how many points, but I want to say that's at least 15 points. So please don't leave that blank. Scrolling down, you need to shade all the points that represent the combinations of flour and cornmeal you can buy that meet both constraints. Explain your choice in shade. So they already graphed the lines for you. I suppose if you really didn't know what was going on, like how to make your system, you should be at least able to give me the correct slope-intercept form of it. They gave you the lines already. You just have to figure out where to shade. You can use Desmos for that. Like once you know what your system is, you can type it in and put the shading that meets both constraints. So my 2 problems, I'm going to show you by hand because I don't probably know that most of them. But if you are graphing, what form do your inequalities need to be in? In y equals mx plus b. So basically isolate the y in both. I'll start with this one because it's a little easier. How do I get rid of this x? Subtract it, whatever you do on one side. Okay, great. So this in slope-intercept form is y greater than or equal to negative x plus 6. I didn't need to flip the sign. I didn't multiply or divide a negative, so good so far. Which of these 2 lines is at the y-intercept of 6? The bottom one. Based on the way that this is facing, would we shade above or below that? All All right. Now don't shade super dark because you need to actually put where it meets both constraints. So right now, this is only meeting one of the constraints. And we're shading above this first line right now. Now we need to figure out for the other one, once that one is in slope intercept form, if we shade above or below. Okay, well, hold on. Let me get there. So I'm going to subtract the 150x on each side and it becomes this. How do I get the y fully alone? Divide 250. And remember, you're doing it to both terms on the other side. I didn't divide a negative, so I shouldn't flip the sign. And I already know, like, this line was for the bottom one. So this one must be the top one. But just for fun, you can do the math and such and then see this line. This part is really all I need. So when it's that simple, do I shade above or below? Below, because we're shading where y is less than this line. So here's my y-axis. Below the line is where it is less than. Now, really, it just wanted you to shade where it meets both constraints. If you shade kind of like how I did, that's fine. But it needs to be really clear what part meets both constraints. So what color on my graph meets both constraints? Green. So make that really clear. Either make this really dark, put a big S so that I know this you're talking about both constraints. But technically, if you shade down here and you don't make it clear, then I have to take off some points. It needs to be really clear that this part meets both constraints. And it also says explain your choice in shading. Make sure you have a sentence. And it could be that you could tell me the rules. You could say when it is y less than, we shade below. When it is y greater than or equal to, we shade above. But if you are missing like those sentences, you will lose points. You could say that here is where it's at least 6 pounds and less than $25. Like you could say a lot of things that are still correct, but it has to be something about that overlapping shaded area is the solutions. Questions on that? Okay. Any other questions on any parts? Ronan? Okay. Friendly reminder, I will post this key on Schoology after this class. So you can go back and check all of the answers that we could look like. There's not much changes. But number 5 on the other study guide. Okay. So Pablo never has more than 23 hours free during a week. He's trying to make a weekly plan for dividing his free time between reading and working out.
Oh, wait, that's not the one on mine.
Okay, which one?
The
What does it start with?
the write an equation of or write a system of linear equality.
Is it on the optional study guide?
No, it just says we need to first finish study guide by practicing.
Okay. Anyway, number 5, you said.
Yep.
All right, so write a system of linear inequalities represented by the graph. So There's lots of things to look at when you're matching the correct system to the correct graph. You could look at slope, y-intercept, shading, dashed, or solid. I like to try and rule out as many as I can, like the simplest I can. Keep in mind, like you do get desmos, you could try your best to eliminate based on that too. But this doesn't look exactly like other. So we want to also know the other thing. So I'm looking at this given graph, and it says, or it shows me that I have a solid line and a dashed line. Me knowing my rules, which you have to have these memorized by tomorrow, I know that solid lines have either of these two symbols, and dashed lines have either of those two symbols. So I'm going to look at my answers, and if there's, I don't know, 2 of these and 2 of these, then I'm going to automatically go there. So looking at it, there's nothing I can rule out based on solid or dashed. So now I'm going to try by shading, because I see that all of these are in slope-intercept form. So the shading should be also easy to see since it's in slope-intercept form. I know that if we are, well, let's talk about this one first. So for this solid line, are we shading above or below it? Below, because this is where the y values are smaller, right? So we shade it below. So for the solid lines that shade below, it would have to be the one that's y less than or equal to. It can also be y less than, but if it's a solid line, then it has to be this symbol for one. For the dashed line, are we shading above or below that one? Above. So in that case, for the dashed line, it needs to be y greater than. Y greater than or equal to also shades above, but we're looking at the dashed line, so it has to be this combination of signs. So let's see what we can eliminate. On mine, and yours could be shuffled, so I'm just directly copying me. On mine, I can eliminate A because this one is facing away, or it's facing toward the Y, and I don't want it to. So eliminate A. B could work. C could not work. Because this opening is facing Y. There's something going. And D could work. So now I'm between just 2 options. Looking at those 2 options for what's different between B and D, I'm noticing that they have the same y-intercept, so I'm not going to bother comparing those. One of them has the same exact inequality, so I'm not going to look at that one. What's different is the slope on the solid line. We have 6/5 or 5/6 on the solid line, whichever one matches is going to be moving. So then looking at the solid line, I can't really go up 6 to the right 5, so I'll have to work backwards. Whenever you're working to the left of the origin, you just do the complete opposite. Instead of going up 6, right 5, we're going to go down 6. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that looks like it's on the left. Just for fun, let's check this one. This one goes with that. Let's check this one too. Working to the left, we have to go down 5. And to the right 6. Which would be over here, which is not on the solid line. So then that means it would have to be my answer B, which could be different on yours. But it's the one that has it exactly like this. With signs facing that way and the slope of 6 for 1. Questions on that one? Okay, and again, you can use Desmos, like you might be able to narrow it down that way, although Desmos might not look exactly like this. You can probably figure it out, but don't know. So forget some of the things. All right, other questions? Number 2 on the paper. So you do have to solve some tricky inequalities. And do you need help with both of them? So there's 2. Just the inequality A. Okay. But yeah, you do have to be able to solve and show all your steps. So if you use Desmos, I mean, that could give you part of the answer, but that won't give you the full points. To solve it, you need to do the algebra. When we're solving, we usually do this first. If we see it, what is it? Distribute. Do I need to distribute an inequality A? So then move on to the second step, which is usually to, good. My opinion, if you follow these steps, you usually can't go wrong. We don't have to do them all the time, but just check. Do I need to combine like terms in this one? No. So then the third step would be to move the variable to one side, which I do have an X on both sides. So that's what I need to do, is move it to one side so it's easier to isolate. But right now that's kind of hard because they're both second fractions. How can you make any fraction not a fraction anymore? Multiply by the denominator. Now, I have 2 different denominators. You could start and multiply the whole thing by 5, and then go back and multiply the whole thing by 10. You could do that. But I like working smarter, not harder. Can you think of a number that when I divide by 5 or 10, like it won't give me a decimal? 10. So if I multiply the whole thing by 10, that will get rid of both fractions at the same time. That's what I'm going to do, and you'll see why that works. So here's my original. I'm going to multiply the entire thing by 10. What is 10 divided by 5? So this basically becomes 2 times the difference of x and 4. We'll distribute that in a second. I'm multiplying a positive, so I don't need to flip the sign. This is going to just end up being x when I multiply it, because they have the same number here and here. Multiplying by 10 and dividing by 10 makes that just x. And then I have to do it to this too. If I'm going to do it to 1, I have to do it to all. So it's 10 times 3. And now it's a lot easier to solve. Now there's no fractions at all, and I can keep going with the rest. So first, I do have to distribute now, so let's distribute this. Table 5, can you tell me what I got distributing this? Good, 2x minus 8. And it's gonna copy this over, good. Now we're still trying to move the variable to one side. Now it's a lot easier. When we are moving a variable to one side, which one is recommended that we move? So 2x or x. How do I cancel the x here? Subtract it, put everything on one side. What's 2x minus x? And then I'm going to bring down everything else that was there. You guys have plenty of time, don't pack up yet. Now, the last step in our list of things to check for and do is just to isolate x. So once the variable is on one side, you can now isolate it. Look at what's farther from it and get rid of it. How do I cancel out minus the 8? Table 1, stop talking. And what is 30 plus 8? And notice, like, in no step did I multiply or divide a negative on both sides. So that symbol just stayed the same throughout. Questions on that? Okay, I feel like nobody has any other questions and you're all already packing up. That's great. Yeah. On the yeah. Okay. I don't want to talk over everyone, so I'll answer it next time. We'll start with it. All right, and understand I try to set you up for success, whether you appreciate that or not. I'm sure you'll appreciate it once you don't have me anymore as a teacher and you realize that you have to like actually pay attention to what's going on and know everything, know what's going to be on the test. I try to show you what exactly will be on the test with same style questions, different numbers, graphs, situations, but it's the same style. And this test, more than all the other tests, I think, match your homework. So if you've actually been doing your homeworks and not just copying answers from friends, then I think you will be in good shape. But here's number 4 on the online study guide. So Yvette has up to $2,000 to invest and has chosen to put her money into telecommunications and pharmaceuticals. The telecommunications investment is to be no more than 4 times the pharmaceuticals investment. Select all the equations or inequalities that could describe the situation. Let X represent the amount in dollars invested in telecommunications and Y represent the amount in dollars. I'm sure there's some words in there you don't understand. Just, you don't need to know what telecommunications or pharmaceuticals is. All you need to really know is this is X and this is Y. Okay, it explicitly tells you. So, select all, you have to check all of them. And I just kind of take it option by option. So this first option has the total being 2,000. So I'm gonna reread the paragraph and look for where it talks about 2,000. And it uses an inequality symbol. So phrases like up to $2,000 would be an inequality, right? It's not saying exactly 2,000. And you have to ask yourself, if she has up to $2,000, does that mean she can invest greater than 2,000? Right? No. So if she has up to 2,000, she can invest less than that. Can she invest exactly 2,000? Yeah. So then, is this symbol facing the right way? No, we know that in relation to the $2,000, whatever she is actually investing, it needs to be less than or equal to it. She has only up to 2,000 instead. I'm going to eliminate that one. I'm going to look at all the others that have 2,000. Like, I don't love this one. I feel like maybe they might say it. I don't remember. I'll have to look at the key. But I feel like this one matches the symbol we have, and that these two are just not specific enough. So I'm just gonna kind of table those. We'll see. I don't think those are gonna be included, but we'll see. That last one is the best one. Then we have our second option has X alone on one side. Go back and read what the X represents. It says, let X represent the amount in dollars invested in telecommunications. Reread the whole thing and see, does it have a limit on what they can invest in telecommunications? When I reread it, it says the telecommunications investment is to be no more than 4 times the pharmaceuticals investment. So if it can be no more than 4Y, because 4 times my pharmaceuticals investment. Okay, so this can be no more than 4y. So does that mean I should use the greater than symbol if it can be no more than 4y? So then flip it. Whatever we're investing in this one, if it says no more than 4y, then can it be less? Can it be exactly 4y? If it says no more than, then it'll be this symbol. So should I pick this answer? No, because it's facing the wrong way. This one is facing the right way. So I'll pick this one. And it has what we wrote. These two are kind of weird. So like I'm leaning towards not picking these at all because I think they paired the wrong variables. It said X is the telecommunications, and we want that to be no more than 4 times. So I'm gonna not even pick these because it had no limits on what we invested from. So I'm not even gonna entertain these ones. Doesn't match. So let's see our key if it includes these other two or not. And it doesn't. So that means on your test, don't go picking, I don't know, multiple that have the total of 2,000 with different signs. Don't do that. It can only be one. And same with like these, it can only be one of them. Either it's facing the right way or it's facing the wrong way. It can't be both. Remember on your test, if you do pick wrong answers, it does take away from that overall score. So don't pick it unless you are pretty sure. Questions on that one? Questions on others? Cadence? Number 2 on this one. Okay, so Matthew wrote the system of linear inequalities given, which graph shows the solution set of the system. So you have a few options. If you are taking a test and this one came up, what might you do first? You might put it in Desmos and see which ones you can obviously eliminate. Like some of them will be shaded, I don't know, here instead, and you know to obviously eliminate those. But there's usually 2 that still look pretty similar in Desmos, even if you are using Desmos. So that's where you have to use like the other things we talked about. So I'm not going to use Desmos because I hope that you guys know that. Show you something you already know. It looks like in all of these, the lines are graphed exactly the same, and it's only the shading that is different. So this one would be a good one to put in. But if you were doing it by hand, the graphing, what form would you want it to be in? Good. And this one is already in that form. This one we have to put in that form, but it's not that hard. How do I get the y by itself? Like, how do I get rid of this 2x? And then we'll do that on both sides. And then now it's in slope-intercept. I'll rewrite it like this. Maybe you like looking at it this way instead, but this is the same thing. All right, so both of these are in slope-intercept form. I'll rewrite it over here so that way I can scroll. And it looks like, based on the symbols, whenever it's y less than or y less than or equal to, do we shade above or below? Below. And both of these are shading below. They're both solid lines and they're both shading below. So is this one shading below both lines? So don't pick that one. Is this one shading below both lines? Yeah. This one, technically no, because it's shading above this line. If you don't know your above and belows, really look at the y-axis as your number line. This is where it's higher than like down here. So don't pick that one. Is this one shading below both lines? Nope. So then it must be this one. This one's shading below both lines. So I always try to see what's different between all my options. The shading, the solid versus dash, the y-intercept, slope. But again, like Desmos is also a great tool. Like I hope that even if you have no clue what's going on, you could at least do that. All right, I'm gonna give you time to work on your study guides. You're welcome to ask questions as you go, but I'll check in again around 12:40 and I'll take more requests. I just know we've had some already from earlier. But you can ask me as you go, like that's totally fine. I'll just do more on the board again in about 15 minutes. Okay, so write an inequality that represents the graph. And this is not a system, it's just one linear inequality. So looking at my answer options, I can't eliminate any based on solid or dashed, because all of those symbols would give a solid line, and that's a solid line. Can't eliminate based on that. They are all in slope intercept form, so I might be able to eliminate some based on the shading. So is this line shaded above or below? It's shaded below, and I know because this portion is highlighted of the y axis, and we know that as we go down, the numbers get smaller. So it is shaded below. And because it's also a solid line, it has to be y less than or equal to. So that means it can't be my A, and remember yours could be shuffled, so don't just like blindly copy me. It can't be my answer C. It has to be either B or D on my screen. The ones that have it as y less than or equal to. Now, looking at what's different about them, they have different y-intercepts and different slopes. So whatever one is easier for you to identify. What's the y-intercept of this graph? 1. And I know that because if this one is 4, then these must be counting by 1. So it must be this one then. And then that also checks out because it has a negative slope, so it's going down from left to right, where this one's positive. So this one is the answer. What could you use if you have no clue what is going on? Like at all? You could type it in Desmos, exactly how it looks. Your answer options. See which ones have a solid line shaded below and matches the y-intercept and slope. Questions on that? Aiden? On this study guide? Okay. The number 3. All right, so this one's a good one to ask about. This one's good to ask about because you do have to be able to solve tricky inequalities, especially on your constructed response where you have to actually do the algebra and show your steps. For this one, since it's multiple choice, you can do a few things other than just knowing the algebra. What's another thing you could do that might be easy? You could use Desmos, you could. So let me show you what that looks like for this problem. What else could you do that we did in the Kahoot yesterday? You could plug in your answers and see if it gives you a statement that is true. So for this one, so here's the other way you could have done it. I don't think we did it yesterday in the Kahoot. So here's another way. If it's multiple choice. You could type it in exactly how it looks. And then interpret what you see. So this is kind of like when we did those number lines. So look at the x-axis since we use the variable x as the number line. What number is like my boundary line one? It's on the 4. So if this was on like a traditional number line, I'd have a circle on the 4. It'd be a closed circle because it's a solid line. And where it's shaded is where your solutions are. So if I was doing the arrows, it would be pointing that way. So we want numbers basically where x is greater or less than 4. What numbers are highlighted? Ones that are greater or less than 4. Good, and then the little line underneath. So this, if I solved it algebraically, this would be my answer, by the way. So that's why that's kind of a protective. But yeah, when you're picking your answer for which of these can be a solution, x is allowed to be anything that's greater or equal to 4. So is -6 greater or equal to 4? Is 6? So then I'll pick that one. But then if you look at the others, like 3 is not greater or equal to 4, neither is -3, so it has to be that one. And that one's an easy way. Otherwise, like for the one that's on your constructed response, where you do have to show all the steps, what I would have done if I was solving this algebraically, I don't need to distribute, I don't need to combine like terms. To move the variable to one side, I need to break up these fractions. And since I have these unlike denominators, I'm going to think of a number that would get rid of both, essentially. So that number, anyone know what it would be? That I can multiply and get rid of both fractions in one try. Four. Not 2, because then it'd be 2/4, and that's still a fraction. If I multiply this whole thing by 4, I will get rid of both fractions once. Because here's what it basically is at first. I'll clean it up in a second. So this is me multiplying everything by 4. And we can reduce these. What's 4x divided by 2? And what's 4x divided by 4? Good. And now it's much easier to solve. So when we move variables, which one do we recommend you move? So I would subtract x to cancel this x. We'll do the same on the other side. What is 2x minus x? And that is what we interpreted from Desmos as well. So, I mean, if it's just wanting which one meets this requirement, then sure, use Desmos. But like for your constructed response, be able to show the steps. Like, questions on this one? Questions on others? Cadence 7. Number 7. Yes. Or we can have. So number 7, we are graphing that system of linear inequalities. So again, what might be a good tool to use for this one?
Desmos.
Desmos, you can graph both and see which ones you can eliminate just based off what Desmos shows you. But usually there's at least 2 answers that are pretty similar that makes Desmos not necessarily always useful. So we'll just do it by hand. Now, when you are graphing, what form do we like our inequalities to be in? And one of them is already, so I'm just going to copy that over so that when I scroll, I can see it. So this one already is. This one is not. How do you make it slope-intercept form? What is alone in y equals mx supposed to be? Good. So I want the y to be alone. To do that, in this case, I just have to add 4x to both sides. Whatever I do on one side of the symbol, we do to the other side. So now the other one in slope-intercept form is this. 4x plus 3. No need to flip the sign because all I did was add. All right, now I'm going to find the one that matches both of these. It looks like I should have 1 dash, 1 solid. So let me see if I can eliminate any based on that. And I can't. What way should these be shaded? Based on how they looked. They should both be shaded above because they're both y greater than. So in this one, would it be shaded above both lines? No, it's technically shaded below the solid line, so don't pick A, which of course yours could be shuffled, so like don't pick the one that looks like that. Let's check B. Are these shaded below both lines? No, or sorry, shaded above is what we're looking for. Are these shaded above both lines? It's shaded above this one. It's not shaded above that one. So don't pick D. Is it shaded above both lines for this one? So C could be possible. Is it shaded above both lines for this one? So we're between C and D now. So both of them have y-intercepts of 3. So it looks like what's different is the slopes. I should have one positive slope and one negative slope. So which one has a positive and a negative slope? Do you know what it means, positive and negative slopes? So positive would be going up from left to right. Negative would be going down from left to right. Which one has a negative slope and a positive slope? C or D? D. Because in C, they're both going down from left to right. You see that? Right? Okay, so this one is the answer. But again, use Desmos. I think these are different enough that Desmos would have been easier to use. But now you know. And don't just blindly pick either. Pick the one that looks like this. Other questions from either study guide? Students? No. Remember, you guys need to get 80% or higher on both to get the assessment points in MATLAB. But number 10 on the study guide, determine whether the ordered pairs given are solutions to the linear inequality in 2 variables. How can you tell if it's a solution or not? Sorry, what did you say? Okay, so we could graph it on Desmos and see if it is in a certain spot that makes it a solution. So let me pull that up. So for that, you'd have to type it in exactly how it looks. X minus y less than or equal to -6. And you can also type in the coordinate. So click in a different cell, type in your coordinate, make sure you use proper format or words. Use parentheses, use a comma. And you can visually see where it is in relation to where the solution is. So is this one a solution? No. It's a solution if it's in the shaded area. And this isn't a system, it's just one inequality. So if it's on a solid line, then it would also be a solution. It's just one. Good on that one? Any others? Karen? Number 9. Okay, so all right, here told to solve and graph the inequality, it says give the answer in interval notation, but you have to, it's on here, but you don't really have to do that. You should be able to just get it from the number line, which one is right, after you solve it. Again, you could use Edmos like we showed you earlier, but you have to know how to read it. We'll just practice solving in this one. So when you're solving, when you're trying to get it to where the x is alone on one side, what do you always have to check for first? If you see it in a problem where you're solving, you do it first. What is it? Do I need to distribute in this one? So no distributing, but that is something you should check for first. Then after distributing, or just in general, you should always check for it. What do I check for next? If there's any like terms to combine. Do I have any to combine in this one? No, because when you check, you should check each side of the symbol individually. So like no like terms here, no like terms there. You should always check. Do I need to move the variable to one side? Yes, because you can't really isolate it until it's on one side. So, which one do we always recommend you move? Which one's technically smaller? And how would I cancel it? I'm going to do that to both sides. Notice I'm lining it up with its like term. What's negative 7x plus 8x? X, and write down everything else that was around it. So we have x plus 12 greater than 21. Now we move the variable to one side. Now all we have to do is just isolate x. So look at what's being done to it and undo it. What's opposite of adding 12? Whatever you do on one side. What is 21 minus 12? And notice at no point did I have to flip the sign because I didn't multiply or divide a negative on both sides. So the answer that matches it is C or D. Which one has x's that are greater than 9? So which one matches that x is greater than 9, C or D? Good. And that's where it's pointing to numbers that are greater than 9. If I were to replace these numbers with the x, it would be true. Okay, good on that one. Any others? Cadence? 35. Okay, so write the system based on the graph. And it is multiple choice. What could you do for this one? You could type in all your answers in Desmos and see which one matches the graph. But you can also, I try to eliminate as many as I can based on how it looks. So it looks like we have a solid and a dash. What symbols give me a solid line? Okay, good. And then which ones give me a dashed line? Okay, good. So knowing that, I know that if I have a solid and a dash, I should have not 2 of these and not 2 of these, if that makes sense. So I check my answer, see if I can eliminate any, and I can't. But that's usually an easy thing you can check for. I can't eliminate any based on solid or dash. What I am noticing looking at my answers is that they're all in slope intercept form. So I should be able to see based on the shading if I can eliminate any. So for the solid line, is it shaded above or below? And which of these symbols, and I'll put the Y there so that way it's like easier. Which of these symbols do the shading below? The bottom one. So now I know it has to be this one included. And for my dashed line, is it shaded above or below? It's above. And we know that above is either Y greater than or Y greater than or equal to. But if it's a dashed line, then it has to be Y greater than. So I'm going to eliminate any that have it facing the wrong way. So like A would not be it because it's facing the wrong way for the solid line. I can also eliminate B for the same reason, not facing the right way. C has it facing the right way and D has it facing the right way. So now I'm just going to focus on these two and what's different about them. So look at what's different about them. They have the same y-intercepts, but the slopes are only different for one of them. It looks like for the solid line, they have it as either a slope of 6/5 or 5/6. So we're going to look at the solid line and see which one has the correct slope. Now notice that I can't really go up 6 to the right 5, like I don't have enough graph. How do you work backwards, like counting this way? Nobody knows. So I don't have enough graph to go this way. You can work backwards, but instead of going up 6 to the right 5, I'll have to go down 6 to the left 5. You do the complete opposite. So we're going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it does look like it's on the line. So it does look like it'll be that one. But for the other one, if I were to try it, going down 5 to the left 6, that looks like it'd be off, like not on the line. So it can't be that. So then it would have to be on my screen. See, that's of course it's already just on yours. Right. All right, I think that's all we have time for. If you didn't get full points on the constructed response practice test earlier, you need to resubmit it in Schoology. Take a picture and upload it, and I'll set your math lab essentially for it. Questions? You have 80% on both. I'm gonna publish the key later, probably after 6 hours, for the constructed response practice test.